Hector, are you okay if I start the recording?
Yes.
Okay, Hector, you're welcome to speak in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Hector Verdugo. I'm the Senior Vice President of Admissions for Academy of Art University here in San Francisco. Wanted to say welcome and thank you all so much for being here with us today. Really looking forward to having an exciting event with you all tonight. I know that there's going to be people from all around the world on our event tonight, so I definitely wanted to make sure to say hello to everybody, whether you're all the way in China and it's morning time over there, or if you're out here in California with me and it's around 7 p.m. here Pacific Standard Time. So anyway, I hope everybody's having a good evening or morning out there. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be your host and your moderator. I'll be the person here in the chat to answer your questions. We want to try to make this as fun and interactive as possible. We have a wonderful faculty and alumni member that's going to be putting on a great workshop today. So our goal today is going to be, the first step is this. I see a ton of people blowing up the chat, which is exactly what we wanted to do here. But if you haven't already, make sure that you hover over the very bottom and click on chat. And then from chat, you can go ahead and click the drop down to make sure that you're adding all panelists and attendees. This way I can see you, other people can see you, and we can keep our thread going. One thing that I'm going to try to do is keep up with the questions, but also make sure that I'm reading off questions for Michael, as he's going to be teaching some cool stuff. And he also is probably going to be trying to help out with answering your questions on how he's doing it. So first thing I want to do here, folks, is I'm going to also drop a link on a couple things. Anybody here on social media, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing concept design. So what that means is we're going to have something called the head sketch challenge. So if any of you have Instagram, feel free to follow the university at academy_of_art and follow Michael Buffington here at Drawaholic1124. But today what our goal is going to be, as we're coming up with concept designs, is as you're doing this from home, please feel free to post some of your concept designs and the things you're learning today, and hashtag head sketch challenge. We'll be able to take some of that artwork and feature it on the Academy's Instagram as well. So make sure that you do that. Next thing is, for all of you that are joining us here, I want to make sure I'm going to drop another link for you to RSVP for next week. We only have 500 spots for this, so get on there as early as you can. We're actually going to be doing a workshop with people that worked on the visual effects for Game of Thrones. So this is going to be a visual effects piece. So jump on there. Once again, we only have 500 spots. So RSVP as soon as you possibly can, so we can get you on there for next Tuesday, the 14th of April. That'll be Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. So next thing is, without further ado, let me move over to the man with all the talent here. So the person that's going to be helping us out this evening, his name is Michael Buffington. He is a faculty member as well as an alumni. He works as a lead concept artist. He does freelance, all kinds of different things, from video games to storyboarding. He's worked on animated films. He worked on some animation and CG for a film called Alpha and Omega. And he also worked on a small series that probably none of you have ever heard of, called Clone Wars on Cartoon Network. So Michael's done some really cool things out there. This guy's extremely talented. I'll let you decide for yourself as you see the quality of his work as one of our faculty member. And let me introduce everybody here to Michael Buffington. Thank you all. Be here in the chat.
How's it going, folks? So glad that you can all join me today. We're going to be having a lot of fun today. As you can see, I got a few doodles up here on the screen already. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a head sketch challenge, which means I'm going to draw a head. You guys are going to help me figure out what that head might be. Is it a Viking? Is it a post-apocalyptic warrior? Is it a chef? What is it, right? You guys are going to help me figure that out in the chat. I'll be taking all sorts of suggestions. I want to keep you guys creative. So instead of doing something like drawing Superman or Wolverine, let's just make something up from scratch together. And while I draw it, you guys can draw it too. And then you guys can post it up on Instagram, tag me at Drawaholic1124. That's at Drawaholic1124 on Instagram, and hashtag head sketch challenge. Okay, so as you can see, I got a few sketches up here. I was doodling earlier, and you guys can see kind of I was just having a little fun and playing, because that's really what I like to do. You know, 90% of your character, their personality, who they are, lives right here, right? So here I am, I have a certain body type and physique, but if you took my head and put it on somebody else's body, it would still be me. You see, just a different body type. Because why? Because 90% of the character lives here. So whenever I start a concept design or a character design, I really do like to start with the head, because if I can nail that down, I've got really about 90% of the work done. And then at that point, it's just about figuring out what the costume is. And a lot of that is determined by the character's occupation, special powers, the story, the time that they live in. So a lot of that work is already done, but this is the hardest part to figure out. So that's what we're going to be doing today. But before we get started with our head sketch challenge, I'm going to give you guys a quick tutorial on some really important things that you guys need to know when you're drawing heads. One of those things is the proportion of the head. Actually, before we do that, I just want to say one thing. I'm going to be drawing digitally. I'm going to be drawing on a Wacom Cintiq. I think the cool people say Wacom. I'm going to be using a Cintiq stylus pen. You guys can use anything. If you guys have a Wacom Cintiq, you guys can use that. If you have an iPad, you can use that. And certainly, if you guys have good old pencil and paper, you know, that's not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, I'm constantly drawing on paper. And the reason why is because, in my opinion, there is no substitute for drawing on paper. You always have to learn how to draw on paper. Build your skills on paper and then transfer them over to the digital media, whether that be a Cintiq or an iPad or whatever it is. The way that you want to build your skill is on paper with the pencil, because there's something more tactile about that. So that's why you will always see me here with a pencil sharpener and a big box full of pencils. There's probably at least about $200 worth of pencils just in this box alone. So I'm always drawing on paper. So you guys feel free to draw whatever you have. If you don't have something digital to draw with, pencil and paper is just fine. All right, so we're going to get to our first part, and we're going to say goodbye to our characters for now. I'm going to group them here. That way I don't lose that. Let's full screen this, make sure this is fitting right in the screen. And we're going to do a little lecture. All right. So one of the greatest mysteries in life that people who are beginning drawing are trying to figure out is the mystery of proportion. And it's so important because that is how you make human beings look human. Okay, so follow me. So the first thing that I do whenever I'm drawing is I like to just draw a little circle. Okay, now the reason why I like to draw a circle is because everything that you will see in life is made up of a combination of one or more of the three basic shapes. That's a sphere, a cone, and a cube. Or maybe there's four. There's a cylinder as well. Okay. And so the head is no different. So when you look at the cranium, right, the basis of the cranium is going to be a circle. So what I do is I establish my circle to establish the basis of the cranium. And then I draw a line right down the middle. That's going to be my center line. Because if you look at the face, it's basically symmetrical. Now, I know people who are really into science and biology will try to argue and say, no, the face is not symmetrical. Visually, to an artist, it's basically symmetrical. So that's all I care about is what do I see, right? So the next thing I do after I split the head vertically with my center line is I split it horizontally, like so. That's a little high there. Let me drop that. There we go. Okay. So now I've established this line here, and that line is going to be not my eye line. It's going to be my eyebrow line. Now, here's a little trick. Okay. One mistake that people make is they try to measure the head. Back up a little bit. They try to measure the head from the top of the cranium all the way down to the chin, and that's a little bit of a mistake. And the reason why is because this part here, the apex of the cranium, is actually not on the same plane as the face. You see the face ends right here, and then it goes back, and that's where the apex of the cranium is. So it doesn't really make sense to use the apex of the cranium in that unit of measurement that you're creating when you're doing the head. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to say hairline to chin equals one face or one head. All right, and so the way that you do that is once you establish your center line and once you establish your eyebrow line, at that point you go and you drop a little arbitrary line, you know, right there, and you say that's going to be my hairline. Now some very discerning, smart person is probably thinking, well, what if the person's bald, or what if they don't have a hairline? Or, well, what we're doing right now is we're doing an approximation or average proportions, generalized proportions, or some people call them idealized proportions. And it's a good way just to figure out how to get a good looking head quickly. So I drop that there, and what happens is this unit right here between hairline and eyebrow line becomes 1/3 of the head. Okay, super important. So what I do is that I then double that. Okay, and you know, I don't have to be super accurate. I don't have to pull out a ruler or anything like that. But I just want to kind of get this approximately where it should be, about 1/3. That feels about right. And right here, that's where my nose is going to land, right about there. Okay, now I'm gonna triple that, and that will bring me down to the bottom of the chin. Okay. Now, if I extend that out this way and then drop that other line here, you can see sort of the proportions of the face are really kind of locked in there. Now I'm going to turn that opacity down a little bit so that doesn't interfere with what I'm going to draw on top of that. And what you're going to see is that I'm going to place the eyebrows right on top of the eyebrow line, like so. Okay. Now, a lot of people have a lot of different ways on how to draw the head, right? I've known people that start with the nose, which I think is incredibly bizarre personally, but for some people it works, right? I am not one of those people. So I like to start with the eyebrows right on that eyebrow line. And then after that, I'll draw the eyes. Now, what I like to say is the eye is going to come, the bottom of the eye is going to come about at the halfway mark down the head. So somewhere around there is where you're going to have your eye. And, you know, again, there's differences depending on, you know, who you're drawing, what you're drawing. Make that a little bigger. That other eye is kind of small. One of the beautiful things about Photoshop and about technology is that when you do something like that, you can just go and make a quick little adjustment. That's one of the beautiful things about technology that I like. So, you know, if you're going to use the tool, take advantage of it, right? Okay, so I got my eyes about where I want them. I'm going to extend out those eyebrows a little bit. They're a little short. And again, I'm just kind of doodling right now and not trying to do anything too serious. Now I'm going to drop the nose in there. And the bottom of the nose is going to come right around that mark there. So I like to get my nostrils in there. Okay, and then your zygomatics, which is your cheekbones, that's going to come right around here. Okay, so that's going to fall right in here somewhere, just a little bit outside of where the eyebrows are. Boom, and then you got your cheekbones. And one other important landmark, you got the forehead here, right? And then you have what's called the temporal ridge. That's that line right here at the edge of your forehead, where your head kind of turns from forehead into the temple, that ridge right there is called the temporal ridge. And so that's an important little landmark as well to keep in mind. And then the head kind of flattens out. You're going to kind of cut a bit off of that circle there. Okay. And we're going to keep it moving. So now that I've gotten this part of the head down, everything's kind of working out pretty well. Proportions are looking, you know, pretty solid for the most part. Now I'm going to draw the mouth. Now the mouth is going to come, the center line of the mouth is going to come about a third of the way down this space here. So I like to say maybe right about there. So I'm going to put the center line right here. And one little trick to get the mouth from being too short or too long is the inside of the eye or iris. If you extend that down, that should indicate where the corner of your mouth is. So somewhere right around there. That's where the corner of my mouth is going to be. I'm going to get my upper lip in there. Okay. And then we're going to get our bottom lip in there. And, you know, the other thing that you want to remember is when you're drawing, you may be measuring things out, like I'm measuring things out quick and you see me kind of adjusting things. And it's because these are approximations and I'm just trying to do this real quick so I can get something decent. If you're drawing and you happen to notice that you know, didn't measure something properly or you're off or something, no big deal. Just go fix it like you see me doing. No big deal. Okay, so we're going to get in this little bit of flesh right around the mouth. That's called your orbicularis oris. That's this muzzle sort of shape around the mouth. On some people, it's more prominent than others. And that kind of will get you in the ballpark in terms of your face. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and figure out how to make the jaw look believable. Now, there's a little trick to this because if you really look at your jaw, it comes down, the mandible comes down, and then it comes forward. So how do I indicate that this jaw is coming forward in perspective? Well, I'm going to show you a little trick, okay? So if I extend out the center line of the mouth, okay, I then take a slight, not a straight line and not a super dynamic line, right? I'm going to split the difference and take a slight angle, right? Slight angle. And then just below that line, I'm going to jut in real dramatically. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And then jut in real dramatically just below that line. He needs a little bit more chin. Okay, and then we want to get the ears placed right. So ears are usually going to be in this space between eyebrow and nose. So, you know, you don't want to draw them too big unless you're drawing somebody like Will Smith, then it's okay, because that's just how he's built. So you get your ears in there. And then the next thing we have to do is draw our hairline. So I thought we give him a little male pattern baldness going on here, right? Push his hairline back, make it interesting. And then, boom. Okay, so now we have a decent looking, somewhat well-proportioned head pretty quickly. Now, you might say, why is that important? Why do I need to know how to do this? Well, you know, here's the thing. If you learn how to do something from the average or approximated proportions that we just looked at, from the generalized proportions, at that point, you can very easily push and pull to get different character types. I'll show you something really cool. So I'm going to copy that layer and I'm going to move that over, okay? And I'm going to take this layer And actually, let me just isolate this. Let me just isolate this head here. Okay, so I'm gonna take this head and I'm gonna have a little fun. So I'm gonna push in maybe here at the jaw. Maybe make his head a little larger on top. Okay, and how about maybe a little wider here. Okay, how about we make his neck a little more narrow? Let's push that in. So maybe we push the whole head in a little bit. Okay, and then if I want to push that even further, I can just isolate the top and go to my warp here and overdid it a little bit. About right there. There we go. Okay, so basically what I did was I pushed and pulled on the proportions to get a different type of character. You might be drawing somebody like a real burly guy, right? Big jaw, strong jaw, big beefy head. Or you might be drawing somebody that's a more slight build, like an ectomorph, somebody who's very slender. And so all you have to do is take those generalized proportions and push and pull them, and you can get thousands of different character types. It's kind of like playing with Mr. Potato Head. You guys ever play with Mr. Potato Head? It's this little toy, it looks like a potato, and you can take off the nose and the eyes and the mouth, and you can interchange them a million different ways. So in the same way, when you're drawing heads, by tweaking the proportions, the type of eyes, the type of noses, you can get endless combinations, and that's what you see out in the world. You see endless combinations of faces, of facial features, of proportions, and there's so many different things that that make people look interesting, and it's because of the differences that you see in the proportions. So that's all I did there. I took sort of an idealized proportion, a generalized proportion, and then I pushed and pulled it, and I got a different character type. So anyway, I hope that helps, and I hope that gives you a little tip. Now, one more thing that I do want to say, since I'm giving you guys little tips, is the one thing that you guys always want to keep in mind. When you are drawing facial features, flat shapes are not the right way to go, because when you look at the nose, the mouth, the eyes, they're actually very complex structurally. And what I mean by that is this. You see somebody who's never, or hasn't drawn much, or maybe at a very low level in terms of their experience, and they might draw an eye and they might go like this, right? Now, that's not an eye. What that is, that's a symbol for an eye. And, the world over, when somebody is trying to draw, they will use symbols, and they'll just plug that in, like Mr. Potato Head. They're trying to draw a nose, they might do this, right? Or if they're trying to draw a mouth, they might do something like this. But as you can see, from what I have over here, these facial features are a lot more complex. The nose itself is one of the most complex, if not the most complex structure on the entire human body. So using a flat shape like that does a disservice when you have something so complex and so many different planes and plane changes. I mean, just if you just think about a nose, right? A nose has how many different planes? Look at all those planes there. It's a huge amount of planes, not including that you have the septum, that you have nostrils, that you have the cartilage around the nose, that you have the ball of the nose here. I mean, the nose is incredibly complex, so something like this wouldn't work. And when you're drawing the eye, right, what do we call the eye? The eyeball, right? We call it the eyeball. And the reason why that is important is because it is actually a spherical shape, a ball shape with skin, hair, and muscle and bone wrapped around it. And so a flat shape wouldn't work. When you look at the lips themselves, lips are actually more complex than you think as well, because lips are skin, collagen, muscle wrapping around a cylindrical shape. Guess what that cylindrical shape is? Your teeth, right? So when you're looking at lips, what you're actually seeing is about 5 pads of flesh in the lips, right? And the lips are not straight across, they're wrapping around your teeth. So drawing them with a flat shape never works. So if you do that, what you have to do is stop, look, and observe. Stop, look, and analyze what you're seeing in that subject, and you can better capture what you're observing once you take the time to analyze instead of defaulting to these symbols that we like to default to. So if you do that, you're going to be well on your way to drawing some better looking heads almost overnight. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on from our lesson.
Hey,
and
Mike.
we're going to start.
Hey, one quick question from Andrew out there. I'm not sure where Andrew's from, but Andrew had a quick question. He says, is it because of the shadowing that makes the nose so difficult to draw? And is that one of the big important factors of it to look 3D?
Well, that's a great question, Andrew. The reason why you see so much shadow on the nose is because the nose, like I said, is a very complex shape with a lot of planes, right? So you have the this part of the nose here. That's where we always see that highlight on, right? That highlight comes right along here, and then you see a big highlight right here on the ball of the nose. That's because that's the part of the nose that's usually facing the light most directly if you're dealing with like a top-down lighting scenario. And then it gets a little bit darker here, right? Because the light is diffusing around the form. And then the nose is obscuring the light, so you're not getting much light at all on this bottom plane. So basically what you're seeing in this shadow is you're seeing different planes that are facing the light in different ways, and some are getting more light than others. And so what's actually the challenge with drawing the nose is understanding and recognizing all of the various planes of the nose. Once you do that, you are well on your way to drawing believable, realistic, better looking noses. But you have to get that understanding first. And that only comes by taking your time and analyzing what's in front of you. If you do that, you're well on your way. Hope that answers your question. Okay, all right. So do we have any more questions before I really jump into our head sketch challenge?
All right, let's get started here. So do you want to get some concepts from the crowd?
Let's do that. All right, so what do we want to do? Give me a genre like post-apocalyptic, something sci-fi, something from medieval times, maybe fantasy like a barbarian, or what are those called? The big the orcs or something like that. Give me some sort of genre, give me some sort of occupation, some sort of special power. Give me an idea about who the character is. You know, are they a hero, strong guy? Are they an evil, villain? So
I'm seeing fantasy has been coming up a ton. I've got Viking metalhead. I've seen vampires flowing through here. I've seen sci-fi. Someone wrote, Chris Mercado, wherever you are out there, he wrote a homeless wizard. That was maybe the creative one I've seen. We have somebody wrote, Madeline out there wrote fantasy elf ranger girl with ocean powers. Very
gracious. Okay.
Someone
I'm
said
gonna
a
try and
droid.
keep up with all of that.
Roger out there, and evil pirate, a mad Dr. Ninja.
Evil pirate, I like that. Evil pirate. Okay, we had some fantasy ones. What do we have?
A lot of fantasy coming up. I don't know, man. Homeless Wizard sticking out to me so far. But yeah, we've got a zombie doctor just came through here.
Homeless wizard, zombie doctor. Love it. Okay.
Ooh, this is a creative.
Zombie
Someone
doctor.
said gem and skin.
um,
We have mermaid out there. Someone Kelly Lusk threw Tiger King out there, but you know.
yeah, I'm not touching that one.
That's already done.
Okay. We had some vampires too, right? Did I hear a
Yeah,
vampire?
Skinwalker in mid-transformation out there.
Okay, so I think I got some good ones to work with. Hector seems to like the homeless wizard. So since you are the curator and MC/host, I'm going to do the honors of drawing the suggestion that you like the most first. Okay, so we're going to do a homeless wizard. Now let me put on my thinking cap for a minute, and let's see what I can come up with. Make that a little bigger. Now, one of the things that you'll see me do when I'm drawing is I will kind of skip steps. You know, I don't always measure everything out in the same way that you know, somebody who's early on in their you know, development might. And the reason why is because I've literally drawn, and I mean literally drawn, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of heads. Part of it is because I'm just kind of a sadist like that. And the other part is that I really want to get better, and that's how you do it, right? As a matter of fact, I have a group called Drawaholics Anonymous. That's Drawaholics Anonymous. You can tell, right, that I started the group because my name is Drawaholic 1124 on anything social media, pretty much. And in Drawaholics Anonymous, in order to join the group, you have to sign a contract stipulating that within 1 year, you will draw 2,500 sketches, 1,000 heads, 500 legs, 500 arms, 250 hands, 250 feet, okay? And you'll do it all within 1 calendar year. And the group has been around, I guess, at this point for about a little bit over 2.5 years. And we have had well over 50 people finish the 2,500 challenge. And the people who have finished it, it is literally, and I mean literally with no exaggeration, changed their lives. I mean, I've seen people go from being average to mediocre and becoming very, very adept at drawing, because that's what happens when you put that kind of focus and time into your drawings, right? Let's see. So a homeless guy, he would have some unkempt hair, wouldn't he? Kind of messy. He's also a wizard. So do I need to put on one of those silly wizard hats? Is that what'll make the homeless wizard a wizard? Let's give him like a normal jacket, like a t-shirt. Maybe he's smoking a cigarette. Homeless wizard smokes cigarettes, right? You know, one of the reasons why you see me moving so fast right now is because I'm just laying down ideas, and I'm not really concerned with being perfect. You know, it's just, you know, this is just a sketch stage. This is just me having fun and just kind of playing, you know. And, you know, let's put it like this. If you can't have fun with art, then you're kind of missing the point. The whole reason why we do this, instead of being a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or something really boring like an accountant, no offense to any accountants out there, but I find that incredibly boring because I like to draw. But one of the reasons why we chose to do what we do is because it's fun, and it's more fun to us than those things. So whenever you're drawing, you got to have some fun, man. And there's going to be days where you might be stuck drawing, you know, something that you don't think is particularly fun to draw. And there are days like that, I will admit. But what you also have to remember is you have to keep in mind that, you know, our worst days as artists are better than some people's best days out in the workforce. So, you know, be very, very, you know, mindful of that when you're out there in the world, because if you're not, you know, you could end up getting very jaded and disenchanted and walking away from a career in art. And that's sad, right? That's not what we get involved in this for. We get involved in this to have fun. Okay. So what you see me doing here is you see me, you know, kind of putting down like a little rough sketch for my homeless wizard. I'm gonna shrink him down just a little bit. And that way I can draw a t-shirt on him. And there we go. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down the opacity so I can clean them up a little bit. And then I'm going to open up another layer. And I am going to take this sketch that I built out and I'm going to start refining. Okay, so what you see me doing here, this is just sort of my rough sketch stage. And I'm going to actually use a couple different techniques to draw heads. I'm going to be doing some heads that are stylized, like something you might see in cartoons like Young Justice or something like that. And, you know, so you'll see me take a couple different approaches, but right now, this is one approach that I commonly use. And that is to lay down an underdrawing and, you know, in one color, and then let's give him nice, big, bushy, homeless wizard eyebrows. Okay, so here I am, got my eyebrows down. I guess he got kicked out of Hogwarts and never actually finished his degree, and that's why he's a homeless wizard. So he's probably not going to be too happy. So he's probably very jaded, hates Harry Potter. Okay.
Hey, Michael, question out there is, what kind of brush shape and size are you using for your sketches and even for your highlights initially?
That's a great question. So I have spent many decades hunting down the best brushes that I can find that will emulate traditional media as closely as possible. And I actually have a brush here. Let's see if I can find my brush set. And I'm using a brush that I found that I rename the Sick Pencil brush. And the reason why is because it is the closest brush to pencil that I can find. But what you want to do is you want to search for for brushes that professional artists like to draw with. And whatever that is, find those brushes, download them, add them to your brush set, or even if you have to buy them, I mean, brush sets usually aren't that expensive. They're usually 5, maybe 10, maybe 15 bucks. But typically when you pay for some of these brushes, you know, you'll find really good stuff. Initially, before all of these brush sets were out on the internet, what I would have to do is, you know, every time I would go to a new company, if I was at Disney or Lionsgate, or, you know, when I went to Lucas, the first thing I did was got really cool with all of the artists and said, hey man, can I have a copy of your brush set? And so what I would do is I would get their brush set, I would open it up, and I would do what I call brush exploration, which means I would literally go through each brush and I would go like this, and I would play with it. And I would say, okay, this brush is good for clouds. And I would keep a Photoshop file with these notes so that I could create the brush set that I wanted. And so when you see this M. Buffington digital drawing brush set, I may have made 1 or 2 of these brushes, maybe. But most of these brushes come from artists that you probably know and admire. I'll give you an example. I have one brush in here, this Pentel pocket brush that I like. This brush here was used by a guy named Shin Yu, and Shin Yu was the lead concept artist on Into the Spider-Verse. And this was one of the, if you look at the concept art, this was one of the brushes that he used for a lot of the concept art, you know? So like I said, I just, you know, I meet people, I get cool with them, and then beg them for their brush sets, and then go through their brush sets, find the brushes I like, throw away the ones I don't, and then I create my own brush set. So I don't know if that helps, but basically I like this particular brush because it has a really nice feel. You can see it actually looks like pencil when it lays down. And right now I'm working in a file that's 11 by 17, and it's 300 DPI is what it is. That's important because if you're drawing at 72 DPI, the brushes will act differently than when you are drawing at a high resolution. So don't draw or paint at a low resolution, because basically what is going to happen is the brushes aren't going to act right because you don't have enough pixel information to work with. And you're going to start thinking, oh my gosh, you know, like, why am I sucking all of a sudden? Maybe this isn't for me. And you're going to be super frustrated when in reality, you just are working at the wrong size in terms of the number of pixels that you need. Okay, talking and drawing slows me down a little bit, but we're almost done with our homeless wizard here. Okay. Like I said, he flunked out of Hogwarts, hates Harry Potter, and so here he is, homeless wizard. Looks like he's up to something. Who knows? Like I said, we're gonna give our homeless wizard a cigarette because that just seems like the right thing to do. I'm not advocating cigarette smoking, folks. And if you do, all right with me. Okay, here we go. Let's get his chin in there.
Hey, Michael, somebody was asking what tablet are you using? I know you said a Wacom tablet before. Is there?
Yes, I am using a Wacom Cintiq. It's a pretty big one, actually. I think it's a 27 inch, maybe. Yeah, it's a very big Cintiq. I spent a lot of money on it, and it was worth literally every penny. You know, my father was a very high-level gourmet chef when he was alive, and he used to always, you know, he would spend, you know, thousands of dollars on his knife sets, and I would ask him, you know, why are you spending 300 bucks on a single knife? That seems kind of silly. And he would always tell me that, you know, a craftsman always makes the investment to get good tools. because the tools will help you do your job better. So if you really take your craft seriously, you won't have any problems spending the money that you need to spend in order to get the tools that will help you do what you have to do better. And that's not to say that the tools will by themselves make you better. If you are lazy and unmotivated and don't work hard, you could literally have the best tools imaginable and you're still gonna stink. And the reason why is because you're not putting in the work. So the tool is not, it's not a magic wand, right? It's just simply something that makes my job a little bit easier when I'm working with good tools. But really the talent is, and the skill lies within me. So even if I was working with something, some inferior tools, I'd still be able to get something fairly decent. It might not come as easily and as fast as when I'm using something like this. I hope that answers the question. Okay, almost done here with our homeless wizard guy. Let's give him a few whiskers here. He needs some random whiskers coming out of different places, doesn't he? That looks a little bit more believable now. Okay, so what's our challenge right now? Our challenge is homeless wizard. So I hope to be tagged in a lot of posts with hashtag head sketch challenge. And you can find me on the gram, as the young people say. You can find me at Drawaholic1124. And I want to see lots of cool homeless wizards tonight from all of you guys. All right. Oh, I forgot the top. How could I do that? How could I forget the top of our homeless wizard's hat? Shame on me. Bam, bam, and bam. Now we're in business. Okay. So here is our homeless wizard in all his glory. Okay. All right. So let's move on. Let's keep the head sketch challenge going. We got a couple more suggestions that we had from earlier. If I can find it.
Michael, one thing that came up in the chat was just kind of more about the diversity and sensitivity. I think in the very beginning, some people might have thought, well, hey, like it's okay to have a double chin, or it's okay to look this way. And I was trying to reiterate in the chat, hey, we're talking proportions here, and
Right.
We're going to be talking realistic stuff, cartoon stuff, comic book art. So I'd say let's try to show everybody maybe some different proportion sizes as well on this next concept.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you have to understand is that when your instructor is teaching you about art, they're never ever saying one form or one type or one ethnicity or one body type is more beautiful than the others. They're just giving you biological scientific information and trying to be as inoffensive as possible. And that's really hard nowadays because sometimes people are really sensitive. But we always have to take great care with how we convey information and things like that to try and be as inoffensive as we possibly can. And so, I hope you understand that nothing that I'm saying here is any slight to anybody else. When we talk about proportions, we talk about these what's called quote unquote idealized or generalized or approximated proportions, not saying that anything outside of this isn't beautiful or amazing. It's just saying, here's a good starting place. And from here, if you followed along when I did my little tweak, what I did was I took that basic sort of starting point and I pushed and pulled on the proportions to get a different character type. And that means I could get somebody that is, that maybe has a double chin or whatever, so, please don't ever default to, well, he's trying to offend me or she's trying to offend me, because that's typically not the case. Typically, people are just conveying information and trying their best not to do that. Okay.
And I was highlighting in the chat that we're really just trying to understand the concept of the approach, the concept of the technique, you know, the concept of the skill set that's being developed in understanding these ratios, proportions, and how to push them, bend them, exaggerate them, etc.
Exactly.
All right. So we did. We got a homeless wizard here. We got any more ideas out there in the chat, guys? I'm gonna try to pick a winner here. We got, you know, I've seen Viking come up quite a bit here, man. I've seen it a few times. There's a super mom that just came through as well. What if there was like a super Viking mom out there? Super Viking mom, someone just threw out there.
A super Viking mom. I'm gonna do you one better. I am gonna make a super Viking mom with a double chin.
All right.
Okay. All right, we're in business now. Let's do our super Viking mom.
Someone wrote yes, like all capitals. All right.
I knew it. That's what you guys have been waiting for all day. Somebody was out there. Somebody was out there hoping that I would draw a super Viking mom with a double chin.
Do you think that the homeless wizard and the super Viking mom are dating? Did they meet on Bumble or something?
You know, it's quite possible.
Yeah.
It's quite possible. So, I mean, he's you know, he's a wizard, so he might have the ability to time travel, you know, so hey, you know, you just never know.
Yeah, Sylviana out there says couple goals.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So I'm just trying to flesh out like what her eyes would look like, and let's get our Viking mom's nose down here.
We have some creative people out there. I got someone said it'd be cool to see a half cyborg Elvis wielding a guitar samurai sword. James, you have an imagination, my friend.
You sure do. James, I want to see you do that and tag me on Instagram, because I want to see what that looks like.
Is that a deal, James? You got your shout out. Now we need to see the artwork.
That's right.
He said he will. It's on.
All right. All right. I'm going to hold you to it, buddy. Okay. So let's do our super Viking mom here.
Hey, while you're drawing, so Tanashi out there asked, is there a better way to practice drawing realistic from photos, or are there other means of practice that you would recommend is better?
That's a great question. When we do the 2500 challenge in Drawaholics Anonymous, I have them do everything, every single drawing, all 1,000 heads, 500 legs, 500 arms, 250 hands, 250 feet from photo. And the reason why I have them do it from photo is because when you're looking at a photo, at reality, you're studying, you're observing what is actually happening in the anatomy, in the face, in the structure, in real life. And you're spending thousands of hours studying from photo. And what you're doing is you are building your visual library. And what that means is you're filling this place in your mind with information so that you can recall that information when you have to draw from memory. And so you see me, you know, doing all these drawings right now, and literally you guys are calling stuff out. I'm just like, okay, let's do it. Now, how am I able to do that? It's not magic, although it may seem. I literally had a student, I did a little quick demo for him, and he says, you know, I know that made sense to you, but to me, it just looks like some kind of dark magic. So, so I know that it might look like magic, but it's really not. It's really the fact that I've spent literally thousands of hours drawing, you know, the human head and figure. And so when I have to do something like this, I have a much easier time pulling it off. You see? Let's get our little, and I don't necessarily need photo reference to be able to do that. Although if I did have some photo reference, it would definitely come out better, you know? But I don't necessarily need photo reference to be able to pull it off. And the reason why is because I have spent so much time drawing these things that that I can do things from memory that I might not have been able to before. Okay. So I'm just kind of working out the overall shapes, and let's get a little Viking hat on, right? Our Viking mom with a double chin. You guys have some real serious imaginations out there.
I got our first head sketch challenge that just posted up.
Do we have a homeless wizard go up?
We have a homeless wizard that just came up. Looks amazing too. It's I don't know if my buddy here's name's Mike or not, but it's MERX_C.
Nice.
Really cool drawing out there that just came posted up.
Very cool. Dig it. I love it.
He actually has the wizard as a book on his head while he's smoking a cigarette, and it says "Wizardly LOL" on the book.
Nice.
Looks pretty good.
Love it. Love it. Hope to see more of those coming in, guys. You guys should be drawing along with me and having fun as well. Okay, so we got our Viking mom is in business here. Okay, so let's turn down the opacity on that one. And let's clean it up. So now I go to the refinement stage. Also, if you guys are curious where I get a lot of my information, like about the proportions and the generalized or approximated proportions or whatever, there's a really cool book by Andrew Loomis called Drawing the Head and Hands. And it was out of print for a long time, and then it went back in print, and I don't know if it's out of print again, but you might be able to find it on eBay or Amazon if you're lucky. And it's a very good book, and I definitely recommend that in every artist's library. If I could only choose 10 books that I would carry, 10 art books that I would carry with me for the rest of my life, that would definitely be one of them. So yeah, highly recommend that.
Hey, Michael, while you're drawing, I was wondering if maybe you could speak to a couple things. You know, I think
Sure.
There's a big misconception where, you know, a lot of times you have people that feel like, okay, like he's just really good at this and he's born that way. And maybe there is obviously some component to that, but do you maybe speak to maybe like as a faculty member and how you're actually working with people, how do you help people develop into somebody that could be a professional concept artist or animator or illustrator or whatever it may be?
That's a great question. Well, here, let me just be very honest with you guys. When I first walked into school in the year 1997 at the Academy of Art University, I stunk. I really liked to draw, and I enjoyed it very much, and so I wanted to do it for a living. And I had what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, in that I thought that I was a lot better than I was. And then I got to the academy and I had what's called a reality check. And what that did was that woke me up to the fact that I actually needed to work really hard if I was going to realize this goal and this dream of being a professional artist. And so I did. I worked extremely hard in order to level up and get my skills to where they need to be. There is no shortcut to greatness. There is no, talent is really only, I mean, your success is going to be 10% talent and 90% sweat. Talent alone doesn't carry the day. When you see the most successful people out there, whether it be in art, music, athletics, whatever it may be, they're typically the hardest workers as well. So, don't let the fact that you might struggle at drawing or might not be able, it took me decades to be able to do this. We're talking 22 years of working nonstop to be able to get to the point where I could just whip stuff out like this, and so, that's not something that, I just rolled out of bed and picked up a pencil and it was like, voila, and I'm drawing like this. Absolutely not. So please, if there's anybody who is even remotely tempted to think that that's the case, please dispel that notion as quickly as possible, because that is not the case. I got here through one way and one way alone, and that was hard work.
Michael, here's a really good $1 million question from Melanie Alvarez out there. She said, what kept you from losing faith in your skills?
You know what? That is a wonderful question, Melanie. What kept me from, I guess, losing faith in my skills? I guess what you're trying to say is maybe getting discouraged and giving up. It's the fact that I am very, very bullheaded and stubborn. My father and mother used to refer to me as hard-headed. My mother, she's from a country called Nicaragua, and she would refer to me as a caprichoso, which means basically hard-headed, that I don't like to listen, that once I get my mind set on something, I was gonna do it, and that was that, So yes, I was hard-headed, I was a caprichoso, I was the type of, kid that, I was gonna do something if I set my mind to it, and that was that. And I took that, that what used to be get me into a lot of trouble as a kid, and I took that same never say die, never give up attitude, and I took it into art school with me, and that is what helped me fight through all the discouragement. Trust me, there were days where I thought, am I ever gonna get good enough to compete with, all these people out there? And you don't know, because you can't see the end from the beginning, right? I assume that not many, if any, are clairvoyant, so you can't tell what the future holds. So you don't know, right? But you have to do what people like to say nowadays, is trust the process. And what does that mean? That means that you have to know that if you keep beating on your craft, if you keep working at something relentlessly, day and night, night in, night out, day in, day out, that at some point you will get good enough so that somebody somewhere will pay you some money to do the thing that you love. And that's exactly what happened to me. I wouldn't give up. Actually, my attitude was, I'm going to do this or I am going to die trying. I literally used to say that to people. And because trust me, I had so many people try to discourage me. When you grow up in a Latino family, the concept of being an artist is very foreign to them. And so many of my family members tried to dissuade me and tell me to do something more quote unquote stable and realistic. And probably the majority of those people that told me that, I make, a lot more money in my career as an artist than they do doing whatever it is that they're doing, and not only that, but I love what I do, So, the reward of perseverance is that not only will you become a highly skilled artist, but you will also get to do the thing that you love for the rest of your life. And who can beat that? I mean, when you have, you know, the world full of people who get up every day and do something that they don't love just to survive, what a miserable existence, right? What a miserable existence to have to sit there and punch a clock for 8 hours a day in and day out, doing something that you do not love. Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. So why am I fortunate enough to be able to do something really cool like what I'm doing right now? It's because I never gave up. I wouldn't quit. I just straight up wouldn't quit. I didn't care if I sucked. I just was like, you know what? One day I'm not gonna suck. and that was really. I'll tell you guys a really cool story. I had seen this movie that came out in the 90s. It was called like the Bruce Lee story. It had Jason Scott Lee. And forgive me, I live by train tracks. But I'd seen this movie called a Bruce Lee story with Jason Scott Lee. And so I went in to a Kung Fu school not too long after. And I said to myself, I'm going to become an amazing martial artist like Bruce Lee, you know, because he was like one of my heroes, you know. And so I went to this school, this Kung Fu school, and was actually pretty good. And one day, the instructor, you know, I'm going to move on to Evil Pirate right now, since I'm talking and we don't have time to stop. But one day, the Sifu, he came up to me and he said, now I'm going to do a little bit different technique with this one. I'm going to show you guys another way to build heads that I think might be kind of helpful.
And hey, Michael, one of the other things too that came up is just really is, as you're doing these heads, is how are you basically also technique-wise capturing gestures and expression in the facial features?
That happens in this stage here, in the sketch stage. I'm really, you know, thinking about, do I want the eyebrow up? You know, do I want, you know, the mouth open or closed? Like, you know, what am I going for? What am I shooting for? And that's something that I figure out, you know, in this early sketch stage, because it's not something that you want to be figuring out in the refining stage. See, I can play with shapes here and I can push stuff around like I'm doing here. It's no consequence. This is low risk, high reward because it's coming out very quickly. And if it's something that I find doesn't work, then I just go away from it, you know? So it's really not that dangerous to spend the time figuring that out at this stage. It's when I get to the refinement stage that I don't want to be doing stuff like that.
Somebody asked a good technical question: is how are you adjusting the proportions based off of the direction each character is facing?
That's a great question. So for example, you know, in our homeless wizard, I use basically the idealized proportions, and I just kind of made them a little bit bonier, because when the collagen breaks down in the skin, you can, if the skin gets thin, and you can see the bony structures better in older people. So that's kind of what I did with that one. And then with our Viking mom with a double chin, what I did was I started with those generalized, idealized proportions, and then I just added mass around it, right? And so instead of the chin ending here, I brought it down to here, and I added a lot of mass around here to change the shape of the overall face. And so this is what I was talking about when I was saying earlier, learning the generalized proportions, or the quote unquote idealized proportions, as Loomis puts it, is not to say that one is more beautiful than the other. It's just saying, here's your jumping off point. Here's your starting point. From here, you can push and pull and get different character types. So I don't know if that answers your question. But now what I'm doing here with my evil pirate is I'm actually making his head very narrow, right? I'm making his head really narrow and really exaggerating certain features to make him look really menacing and hard. And that's a choice, a definite choice as well, because I want to make him look a little bit more intimidating. So let's enlarge. That's too large.
Hey, Michael, what was the name of that book that you said that you were recommending out there? I can type it in the chat.
That is Drawing the Head and Hands by Andrew Loomis, Loomis. Like I said, if I had 10 books that I could put in my library for the rest of my life, that would be one of them. And if you get the book, which I hope you all do, you'll be like, oh, I see why you said that, because this is awesome.
Kennedy asked out there, what are some of those other books you would recommend? Anything off the top of your head?
Yes. The second book would be one of Loomis's other book called Figure Drawings for All It's Worth. Absolutely. And another one would be Color and Light by James Gurney. Absolutely, positively, 100%. You have to have that in your library. Gosh, there's a few more, and those are the three that come to my mind right now. But there's a lot of great ones out there. I just can't think of all of them off the top of my head. I have them sitting on my bookshelf. But those three right there, you can't go wrong. There's actually a really good one. Look up Scott Robertson. Scott Robertson has some amazing books on rendering that are really good. And Doug Chang has a book that I really like called Mechanica or something. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. That's really awesome.
So Giselle's asking, what is the definition of rendering in this concept?
Rendering is simply shading, right? So what you're doing is light is hitting the form and it's diffusing around the form, right? And so what you're doing in rendering is you're creating the illusion of light diffusing around a form, a three-dimensional form, on 2 dimensions. So you're trying to replicate that visually using your pencil to replicate the transitions from highlight all the way down to your core shadow. So that's basically what rendering is. And then, in sort of layman's terms, they would say shading, Let's get my pirate looking nice and
seen some pretty cool drawings posting up out there too, so thanks a ton to some of you out there. I see Steve M. Fred just threw a really cool one out there of the homeless wizard.
There we go.
TOSC just dropped his Viking drawing.
All right, there we go.
We got some Viking drawings out there. I saw Sylviana Marty out there. She just dropped the homeless wizard and a Viking drawing out there for us.
Very cool. All right. So now I want to see some evil pirates coming up next. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Back to my story. So I walked into this Kung Fu studio and I was training there for a few months and I was very good. And the Sifu, he said, "Why are you here? What was I looking to accomplish?" And I said, "Oh, well, I want to be a good martial artist." And he laughed at me and he said, "No, you don't. And I said, yes, I do. Like, what are you talking about? I'm 18 years old, hot-headed. And he said, no, you don't. And I said, yes, I do. You know, and he goes, And he goes, okay. He goes, well, do you want to learn what he called the Chinese way? Because he was from Hong Kong. And I said, yes, absolutely. And I'm thinking it's going to be like some Shaolin Temple, bed of nails, like something crazy like that. And he brings me over to the heavy bag and he tells me to roll my pants up to my knees, take my shoes and socks off, and kick the bag 100 times each leg. And I'm like, okay, I'd seen this movie before. This is like some wax on, wax off stuff. You're just trying to see if I'm gonna actually, do what you're telling me to do, and no problem, I'm gonna pass that test, and I'm gonna learn this secret sort of stuff, whatever it is that you're talking about. And by the time I was done, I limped, I hobbled out of there, and that was a Thursday. And he said, come back the next Tuesday, because I had class every Tuesday and Thursday. He said, come back 45 minutes early. And I said, okay. So I came 45 minutes early, got there before anybody for that particular class. And he told me, go hit the heavy bag 100 times each leg. So, okay, all right. So I went and did it. And this, hobbled out of there again. And this goes on, for about a month. And then he says, I have something new to show you. And I was like, oh, he's finally going to show me. He's finally going to show me the secret Shaolin monk technique or whatever it was that he was going to show me, at least in my mind, right? So he brings me over to the heavy bag and he goes 150 times each leg, and he laughs and he walks away. And I was like, what the heck? What? And so I was like, okay, all right, fine. He's really trying to see if, if I'm going to do this. And so I was like, I'm going to pass this test, So I do this, and this goes on for like around 3 months. And finally one day I was really upset because I thought, he's just yanking my chain. He's not really teaching me anything that whatever he was, in my mind, I thought he was supposed to teach me. And he came in like about 5 minutes before class started, and he says, you're late. And I said, no, I'm not, I'm on time. And he goes, no, you're not, you're late. And I said, no. And he goes, you're supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z. And I was like, no, with all due respect, I'm very tired of coming here and kicking this bag over and over. You said you were going to show me all this stuff, and you haven't showed me anything. And he goes, you want to learn the Chinese way? And I said, yes. And he goes, that is the Chinese way. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? And then he tells me this quote that I never forgot from Bruce Lee. He said, Bruce Lee said, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. And I said, huh. And he goes, what happened when you sparred with Troy? And Troy I'm 18 years old. Troy was a grown man. He was 32 years old and big guy, strong. And I said, I broke his ribs. And he goes, exactly. He goes, why do you think nobody wants to spar with you? He goes, you're faster and stronger than anybody else now because I've been training you this way. And all of a sudden the light bulb went off, bing. And I was like, that's how you learn, by focus and repetition. And so I took that same mentality from martial arts into my drawing art, and that's how I got where I am. So to the young lady who asked about, how did I persevere? It was that experience helped me because I knew that at some point I was going to get better, and I did. Okay, so there's my evil pirate. Now, what are we looking like in terms of time?
We're supposed to be off in about 10 more minutes here, man. So I'm asking the crowd for a few more ideas here. Anything you want to do? Hey, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know I know you worked on Clone Wars. Is there any type of Clone Wars action we can throw everybody here?
Oh man, it's been so long since I drew anything from the Clone Wars. Let me see if I can pull up
Well, why don't we make a new character for Clone Wars? How about that?
a new character. Okay, we can make a new character.
Anybody have a new character for Clone Wars? And it can't be Baby Yoda. Come on, we already know Baby Yoda.
As a matter of fact, I promised that I was going to do something stylized. So this is the perfect time to do that.
All right. We have the idea of Luke Farmwalker.
Luke Farmwalker. Luke Farmwalker, that's awesome. I don't know if you guys remember, but Luke Skywalker had said he was so upset about the way that Rian Johnson had written his character in episode 8. He was like, he goes, you know, I didn't really even recognize who this was. He goes, I felt like this wasn't Luke Skywalker. This was like Jake Skywalker. So that's what that reminded me of.
That's funny. Yeah, how about that for our last post? Let's see who can come up with the coolest character for Clone Wars.
So I'm gonna do something a little stylized.
And we got some pretty cool drawings coming up, man. So I'm gonna give some shout outs real quick, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Jeanette Hall just posted a pretty awesome drawing here.
Nice.
I wish I knew his name. I don't know if it's Michael or not, but it's MERX_C. He just posted a Viking in addition to his homeless wizard. That's pretty freaking awesome, man. Seeing some really cool stuff here. He also drew an eye. That was pretty killer. I don't know the name here, but Fugazoid looks like out there. He dropped his first picture on Instagram. He even wrote a little caption of lost my hat, let me get $1, bro, to his homeless wizard. Killing it. Yeah, he went the extra mile. I saw some really cool artwork here following along with the noses from Kashik out there. Pretty awesome drawings out here of the face, the structure, the nose, lips. This guy's been killing it. I forgot to shout him out earlier. It was Joseph. Joseph threw up a homeless wizard and also a Viking here so far, and totally killed it, man. Really, really awesome work out there. So thank you guys. I'm trying to make sure I keep up with these shout outs. Lenny has a Graham, threw up a pirate for us, also threw up a wizard with some captions. Really cool work out there. Thank you guys. So I'll keep out the shout outs as I see these coming through.
Well, let's go to my little animation style brush that I like. A little bit too small.
Question, Michael. Sarah saying, do you tend to draw concepts for characters in a 3/4 facing left, or is this just keeping it all in a row?
Yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. I mean, I can flip it around and do it the other way. I always like to do 3/4 views so that people can see, you know, two sides of the face. If I'm only going to do one view, and that's to give them as much information as possible. But yeah, I was just doing that to kind of keep them in line with one another. But yeah, I mean, I can flip. I mean, you can see, where's that group that I had earlier? Where'd my lady go? Yeah, you can see I draw them in any direction. It doesn't really matter to me. But yeah, just for housekeeping purposes. So yeah, since I'm doing something a little bit more stylized, you see I changed my brush to something that feels like that's the Shinyu brush that I told you about earlier. And I really like this brush when I'm doing this kind of work. Really kind of helps my brain flip over to doing stuff like this. You'd be surprised how how just switching your brush or your pencil or something like that can actually affect the way that you draw, but it really can. And
Michael, one person that asked a pretty good question is, maybe as we're getting to it soon, is any tips on how to draw hair?
Any tips on how to draw hair? That's a great question. What I say with hair is I always tell people, do not think about hair as individual shapes. I'm sorry, individual little hairs, because what will happen is you'll get something that looks like an old broom, and that's not what you want, right? What you want to do is you want to think of hair in shapes. Anytime you've seen me sketch hair, you've seen me draw an overall shape and then add a little texture to it. But you know, I'm not worried about individual little hairs, you know, so I get the shape down and then I start adding some texture. And that's, you know, that's something that takes a little bit of time, and practice, but it definitely is going to give you better results than if you're just drawing a bunch of individual little hairs, if that makes sense. Matter of fact, I'll pull up a file. So now I have my little stylized Clone Wars looking character. Let me pull up a file and let's see. Let's pull up. Here we go. I was actually working on something the other day for a class. I was doing a little demo on hair. So you're kind of in luck. It was in module, is it in module 4? Yeah, I think it was in module 4. Oh, this is module 3. I literally just had the, okay, anyway, I'll try and find it, but here I'll just pull up the video. Here we go. I'll do you one better. I'll pull up the video. So here's a video that I did for a class, and you can see here in the video that I'm going over how to draw different types of hair. And I'm showing people how to approach drawing hair as, you know, shapes, as opposed to, you know, I'm not worried about, you know, individual hairs. What I'm worried about is getting an overall shape and then getting in texture, you see? And if you, I think I did, in the previous video to that, I did some different types of hair. And you can see how I approach it, right? I don't sit there and focus on individual hairs. I get the overall shape and then I texture it.
Hey, Michael, what we're seeing right now is just your Photoshop, not the anything else.
Oh, gosh. Okay, thank you. Well.
Hey, if you, is it a video link?
Yeah, it's not something that I can put up though.
Oh, okay.
But what if I turn this? Let's see. I think I might have. Anyway, so this is another file. I don't think it has, maybe it does. Here we go. I knew I had it in here. So this is something that I did. It was a demo on how to draw a bunch of different types of hair. And so, like I was saying, I draw the overall shape of the hair, like you see me do here, and then I start to texture it. But I don't worry about drawing individual little hairs, because if I do that, it's gonna look like an old broom very quickly. So I get the overall shape down, and then I start to draw in chunks of hair, because if you look at hair, it usually will fall in chunks. And that's what I try to do, is draw the hair in chunks and follow the direction that the hair flows, or that the hair would naturally sort of flow. And so that's why you see all my hair have sort of a direction where it kind of, you know, goes in the same sort of, you know, kind of flows in the same way and stuff like that. So that's the kind of stuff that you see me do. Yeah. So anyway, so there you have it, folks. We have a homeless wizard, a Viking mom with a double chin per your suggestions. So if anybody gets offended, that was your fault. And we have an evil pirate here. And then we have a stylized Clone Wars-esque type of character. And you know, what you see right here is you see how quickly I transition from doing something a little bit more realistic to doing something very stylized. It happened like that, right? I just went from one to the other. I just changed my brush, and I flipped a switch in my brain. And the reason why I'm able to do that is because I learned how to draw realistically. And I've drawn thousands upon thousands of realistic drawings, and I was able to then take that and use that to simplify, because what you're seeing here is something called anatomical shorthand. That's anatomical shorthand. So in other words, what I'm doing is I'm showing you abbreviated anatomy. Anytime you see cartoons, it's anatomical shorthand. So all I did was took the anatomy that I already knew and understood, and I just abbreviated it and created something stylized and cool, and something that you would see in a series like the Clone Wars or something like that. And so that's what happens when you put the time in to learning how to do things realistically and drawing from photo reference. And that's why I highly suggested that. That's why I strongly suggest drawing from pencil and paper. One of my instructors used to always say, you have to learn how to draw the box before you can draw outside of the box. So I learned how to draw the box every which way, and now I can draw outside of the box and do cool stylized stuff like so. So you guys have any more questions?
You know, hey, Michael, so I'm going to definitely get this thing wrapped up here for us here so we can end semi on time, but I know we're having fun and we can go all night. Hey, last thing I just wanted to maybe see if you can leave us off on, and I can wrap up here as well, is, you know, what's it like to be a student here, man? Is this the type of school you feel like can really help people to get better? Is this something that taking that first step is, you know, is a critical moment for people? So what's your advice on that?
So, you know, the Academy of Art is a very interesting school, because a lot of colleges and universities, art universities and colleges, have a what's called a portfolio requirement. And what that means is, you know, you have to put your, you know, submit your best work, and then they have a panel that sits there and judges your work and decides whether or not you're worthy to go to their school. And I don't particularly care for that. And the reason why is because I think it's a little elitist. And I think, you know, what if, hey, look, I didn't even know what a portfolio was when I got to art school at the Academy. So thank God there was no barrier to enrollment at the Academy, because had I needed the portfolio, I probably wouldn't have gotten in, and who knows what I'd be doing right now, right? So, you know, they have an open enrollment policy, which means that anybody with the desire, with a dream to be an artist, can come and train. But because we have the open enrollment policy, we have the moral obligation to create a program that is so intense and so effective that we can take somebody regardless of skill level, and if they're willing to work hard and put in the work, then we can put them in the program that will help build them up to a professional level by the time that they're done. And I say that with confidence because I have done it over and over and over. I have taken people who are at very low skill levels, and I have built them up to professional artists. I'll never forget, there was one student, she was from Indonesia, and she was one of the weakest draftsmen and that I had ever seen. Her draftsmanship was very low level, okay? It was so low level that I was very tempted to try and have her consider a change to maybe 3D or something else, graphic design, I don't know, but I didn't think concept art was in her wheelhouse. But I have a personal policy that I don't dissuade people from following their dream. I feel like I don't have the right to do that. If you say you want to do something, then I'm going to help you as long as you have the passion and the drive, because that was me. I was that person. So she said, what can I do to get better? And I said, go do 1,000 heads. And she came back a couple months later, had them done. She said, what do I do? I said, well, you're still your draftsmanship is still a little weak. Go do 1,000 more. She comes back 2 months later. Bam, here's 1,000 more. Everything that I threw at her, she would do it. And she was one of the hardest working people that I had ever met. And you know what? She went on to become a senior character designer at Nickelodeon. So this person went from zero all the way to the top, went from the lowest level possible to working at a really, really cool company like Nickelodeon, designing characters. And it was because of her work ethic and because of the type of program that we built here at the Academy of Art University. So I cannot tell you enough how valuable that is, because you're going to spend money to come to school, and you want to know that you're going to get into a program that is going to take you and build your skills up to a professional level. And we have that here. In fact, the Rookies organization, you guys can go and look this up. The Rookies organization took 120 professionals, and they had them rank the best schools in the world for concept art, illustration, and visual development. And the Academy of Art University, out of all the schools in the world, we are number 3 in the world, number 1 in the United States. That's where we're ranked now. You see? And it's because we have the type of program that we have, where we take people who are maybe at a lower level, and we build them up to be at or near a professional level by the time they're done. And then we take people who come in maybe with a little bit more experience or a little bit more skill, and we take those good people and we make them great. You see? So I know it might sound like I'm a company man, but really, even if I wasn't working for the Academy, I would still say the same thing, because it's an amazing program. It's absolutely worth taking the leap into this program, because you're going to get what you pay for. But the caveat is this: you have to be willing to put in the work and do anything that you need to do to build your skill up to that professional level. If you're not willing to put in the work, and you're only doing half measures and half-hearted efforts, it doesn't matter what school you go to, you're never going to make it. You see, because there are so many people competing for these spots, as designers and concept artists and character designers and visual development artists and illustrators and things like that. Why would a company accept somebody who was, who didn't work hard and had a mediocre portfolio? They don't have to do that, because there's so many good people that they can just pick from, you see? So in order to be able to compete with that, you have to have the right mindset, and you have to be willing to put in the work. And if you do that with the type of program that we've built here at the Academy, that's a winning combination. So, like I said, I would tell you this, even if I wasn't an Academy employee. The school is known the world over for the quality of education that we have. And when you talk, I'm in the game development department, and all the biggest companies, Blizzard, Riot, Naughty Dog, you name it, Sledgehammer, they're all hiring our concept artists. And the reason why is because they know that when they come here, they're going to get quality people. I if you're really thinking about coming to art school, I strongly recommend, especially if you want to do concept art or something like that, I strongly recommend the Academy, and you can look it up for yourself. We're ranked #3 in the world, #1 in the country. I don't know about you, but I'd want to go to the #1 school in the country. I'm just saying. I don't know if that helps, if that's the right answer.
That's more than enough, man, I'm sure. Hey, so everybody, before we wrap up, let me just bring it home with a couple of quick things. First thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and post the link. If we chill on the chat real quick, I want to make sure everybody gets this link. Once again, when I tell you next week, we're going to have Game of Thrones. It's going to be pretty awesome here. So please make sure if you follow that link that I just sent everybody, you can RSVP right then and there today. That'll help you get a spot. These rooms can only hold 500 people, and I'm pretty sure we're going to fill this one up early. So if you really want to get on there. Next thing I want to do is to say, as far as Instagram goes, I still see a ton of really cool drawings out there. Here's a couple of links for you to reference. If you go on Instagram, you can follow the university at academy_of_art. You can follow Michael there at Drawaholic1124 and post those drawings that you have out there, the head sketch challenge. I'm still seeing them come in left and right. Too many people to shout out right this second. I did want to give a couple really cool ones. I just saw Franken Dowell over there just posted a really cool Viking picture. There's one that, there's actually a ton that I really, really love. But I do want to give a special shout out. This person did a really cool job. Please check out their artwork when you get a chance for Heather Windsor out there. Nice. She killed it today with a ton of different gestures in her drawings. You can see a lot of hard work went into those even this last hour. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of really talented people out there. I'm seeing some crazy good work coming through. So thank you all on that. Last thing I wanted to bring home with everybody is my name's Hector Verdugo. I'm the Senior Vice President of Admissions. I run all of admissions for this university, whether you're an international student or a domestic student, graduate student, undergraduate student. We have a phenomenal team. What we do here as our process is we have everybody meet with a representative one-on-one to go over your interests, the specifics of what it is you see yourself doing, make sure that we help you get into the right program. We want to try to do every single thing we can to take good care of you and make sure we put you on the right track. Even if this school doesn't work out and this isn't the place for you, let us at least connect with you and help you to try to make sure that we get you on track to follow what it is that you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link really quick here of how to apply to the university. I'm also going to go ahead and drop once again my email. So if you email me, there's so many people on this, but if you email me directly, I will get back to you and make sure that I have somebody get back to you immediately, and we'll take good care of you with a one-on-one appointment, go over all your questions, et cetera, et cetera. Does anybody here have any specific questions or anything out there that I can maybe answer really quickly as we're wrapping this thing up here? And hey, feel free if you're out there too, if you're comfortable, by all means, you can always request this live recording back again. We can drop that link for you real quick. But if anybody out there needs to talk or has any type of questions or anything, please feel free to send me an email. I'll do my best to get back to everybody and make sure that we take good care of you. I'd encourage all of you to take the first step and submit an application. We can help you through the entire process as well.
Absolutely.
So hey folks, as I bring it home, I just want to make sure that we sign off the right way. Let's go ahead and give a big thank you and a big shout out in the chat if we can to Michael. I wish he could hear us, but Michael, we got a ton of thank yous out there.
Thanks, guys.
I saw Heather throw a big thank you out there. I saw a lot of these really great talented people that we saw their work. If you go on Instagram, I know Michael's going to get to it later.
I'm literally going to do it like as soon as I hop off.
Yeah, we're getting like hundreds of thank yous right now, you guys. So, and just to speak to this one last point, this is just us trying to have some fun and have a good time, but we really wanted to make sure that you all can see the different levels of skill set, talent that our faculty have. Michael's coming from a unique perspective of somebody that is also not just a faculty, but also an alumni who chose to go to the school and actually attend this program. So definitely want to make sure that everybody just acknowledges, hey, Michael's taking the time to show us all some really cool stuff tonight, and I hope everybody had fun. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you guys back next week on the Game of Thrones workshop.